The numbers that the state reports every day to keep track of the spread of coronavirus have been wrong. The state says it's been mistakenly including negative antibody test results with its total negative test results since April. So this means negative test results were inflated. The overall percentage of positive results was underestimated by almost a full percent. The department says it has corrected the numbers on its website. Meantime, the State Department of Health also announced that it will adjust the way it reports deaths from COVID-19. Until now, if someone had the virus but it didn't contribute to their death, their cause of death was still recorded as COVID-19. The state plans to first remove deaths from its total count when it's clear that COVID did not contribute to the death. Right now, 7 people fall into that category. The state will then add a classification to each death. For example, did the coronavirus contribute to the death? Did it probably contribute? Was it suspected to have contributed, or did not contribute at all?
Snohomish County plans to move its quarantine site from Everett to the Evergreen Fairgrounds in Monroe. That'll happen on the 25th of this month. The county owns the fairgrounds and won't pay to use the space like it's been doing in Everett. Thurston County is submitting an application to move into phase 3 of reopening. The Board of Health just voted unanimously to try and move forward with Washington's Safe Start Recovery Plan and says the application was submitted yesterday and will now be reviewed by the State Department of Health. That would be the most populated county with phase 3. Grays Harbor County got the green light to start its phase 3 reopening. A reminder, phase 3 expands outdoor recreational activities of up to 50 people. Restaurants would be allowed to have 75% capacity. Bars could reopen with 25% capacity.
New help is on the way for financially strapped veterans in Pierce County in the wake of coronavirus. The county's easing the requirements needed to qualify for the Veterans Emergency Fund. The money can be used for rent, house or car payments, food, and utilities. Members of the National Guard will begin helping with unemployment claims in Washington today. The commissioner of the Employment Security Department, Susie Levine, plans to welcome them this afternoon. Some of the tasks they'll take on include helping with identification verification and clearing up any claims that are stuck because of discrepancies.
Brace for cuts to services and maybe even more taxes. That's what state lawmakers are now warning after learning how bad the pandemic is hitting the state budget. Looking ahead to 2023, the state's Economic Forecast Council predicts a $9 billion budget shortfall in state revenue. To make up for that, state agencies could be looking at a 15% budget cut. That could cut things like foster care, could hike up college tuition. There's talk of raising new taxes or a tax on large businesses to offset the cuts. Governor Inslee has not endorsed any taxes, but noted in the last recession that the state relied on cuts-only budgets.
As we look forward, I hope that we heed the lessons of the last recession, which we are still under the shadow of in mental health and the like.
Lawmakers are set to return to Olympia in January. There's a chance they could return sooner in a special session to address the new budget hole. As the state scrambles to make up for that budget shortfall, the governor announced thousands of furloughs and canceled raises to try to prop up the budget.
We do understand that given the dire economic reality, there's going to have to be spending reductions, and the furloughs, in our opinion, is the best way to do that in order to avoid, again, cutting vital public services or laying off people and people losing their jobs.
Now, the union representing those 45,000 workers would need to approve the furloughs. They would not affect employees considered critical, meaning someone would need to cover their shift in their absence.